My stepmother attempted to sabotage my wedding by sending my fiancé doctored photos that made me appear unfaithful. After being expelled, she's now pleading for forgiveness and a chance to return. I, 27F, am getting married in 3 weeks. My fiancé, Adrien, 28M, and I have been together for a decade, and he proposed just a few months ago. We've known each other since school, and our families are quite close. My stepmom, Jenna, 47F, who has never liked me, has always had a soft spot for Adrien. Jenna married my dad when I was in middle school, around 8th grade. My parents had never been married but shared partial custody of me. They maintained a good relationship even after their breakup, and I'm incredibly grateful for their efforts to co-parent effectively. My dad met Jenna through work, and after a couple of years of dating, they got married. Jenna was very kind to me while she was dating my dad, likely to secure her position as my stepmother and make me feel at ease, so I wouldn't interfere with their relationship and their eventual marriage. It was only after they got married that her true nature began to surface. Once she was my stepmother, she seemed to feel free to treat me poorly, knowing there was nothing to stop her. Although I was young, her behavior was blatantly cruel, making snide remarks and creating a hostile atmosphere in our home. She only behaved this way when my dad wasn't around. When he was present, she was always pleasant for the first few months. I was baffled by this sudden change and blamed myself, convinced I must have done something to provoke her. Eventually, I couldn't endure it any longer, so I talked to my dad. He confronted Jenna, and we had a family meeting where she vehemently denied any mistreatment and accused me of fabricating lies. She appeared deeply upset and began to cry, prompting my dad to ask me to leave the room so they could talk privately. Despite being told to go to my room, I stayed just outside their view, eager to understand what was happening and to hear Jenna's side of the story. Normally, eavesdropping wasn't in my nature, but I'm glad I made that choice because it revealed Jenna's true character. I overheard her telling my dad that I had never liked her, even when they were dating, and that I was always rude to her. She admitted she had kept quiet, believing that if she was kind to me I would eventually accept her, which clearly hadn't happened. In reality, she was projecting her own behavior onto me, accusing me of the same mistreatment she was giving me to mislead my dad. She even claimed that because my bad behavior hadn't driven her away, and she had married my dad anyway, I was now escalating my efforts to sabotage their marriage, concocting lies to paint her as the villain. My dad seemed incredulous as Jenna spewed this nonsense, asking her if she was sure this was happening, as it didn't sound like me at all. She insisted that it was all true and suggested that I might believe she was blocking my parents' relationship and was the reason they hadn't gotten together sooner. Jenna even hinted that I might be the cause of his past relationships failing, implying that any partner who spent time with me would quickly see my feelings and leave, as no father would choose a girlfriend over his daughter. Before Jenna, my dad had only introduced 2 girlfriends to me, and he had ended both relationships. Jenna's theory was completely baseless, but she pushed it hard, claiming that I was upset about my parents' separation and blamed her for it. From a young age, I had always seen my parents as friends who took turns caring for me, so the idea that I was preventing my dad from reconciling with my mom made no sense. My mom had dated other men, and I was familiar with them, so I never had hopes of my parents getting back together. In fact, before Jenna and my dad got married, I had even told her that I would be happy if he married her and made her a permanent part of our lives, back when she was actually kind to me. After overhearing that conversation, I understood what was happening, even though I was young. Jenna wanted me out of the way because I was the last connection to my dad's life with my mom, and she couldn't stand that. She was jealous and insecure, and instead of expressing those feelings to my dad, she chose to treat me poorly in an attempt to push me out. Even as a young child, I remember feeling so furious that I retreated to my room and screamed into my pillow for a few moments. By the time I was 12, I had resolved not to let Jenna win or make me appear weak. When my dad asked if I was having issues with Jenna, I told him that I had had problems in the past but would try to improve. That response seemed to satisfy him, and thus began my silent battle. No matter how nasty she was to me, I was determined not to let her behavior affect me, nor would I let her hurt my feelings to the point where I would leave my dad's side. I could have complained to my dad again, but that would only lead to more family meetings and discussions, leaving him even more confused about whom to believe, his daughter or his wife. I figured the best way to handle the situation was to tough it out and show Jenna that she had picked the wrong fight with the wrong kid. As a kid, you can't really blame me for that decision. I just wanted to make it dramatic and outlast her. Watching too much TV probably didn't help either, but that was my plan. I resolved not to let her get to me, and for the next few years, she tried her hardest to belittle me and corner me with her awful behavior. However, I ignored her, gritted my teeth, and got through it all with a smile, determined not to let her get under my skin. It was easier for me since I spent half the month at my mom's place, so I didn't have to deal with Jenna all the time. When my dad was around, she was nicer to me, so it wasn't too difficult. Eventually, I moved out for college and only returned home for the holidays. During those times, my dad was always around, so dealing with Jenna wasn't a problem. In recent years, Jenna still tried to take jabs at me whenever I came home, but it no longer bothered me because I knew I had won. I'm much more mature now, so her comments didn't affect me. Plus, when I visit home, I always bring Adrien along, which forces Jenna to be nice to me because he's there. Adrien has met my family countless times, and I was actually surprised to see Jenna being genuinely nice to him during the first few encounters. He knew about our past, but being the kind person he is, he was always polite to her. It was surprising because she seemed to genuinely like him, something I never thought would happen, considering how much she had disliked anything connected to me. I was relieved that she treated him well and didn't mirror her behavior towards me, as it would have been quite awkward for all of us. Recently, Jenna sent Adrien a text, spreading a series of lies about me and suggesting he should reconsider marrying me as it might ruin his life. She claimed that I was seeing another guy, a neighborhood friend, behind his back, and that she had kept this secret because she thought I'd eventually come clean. Since I hadn't, she felt compelled to expose it. She asserted that I was only marrying Adrien for his job and that as soon as my other boyfriend secured a similar position, I would dump Adrien and leave. Jenna even claimed she had overheard me plotting with the other guy on the phone and felt it was her duty to warn Adrien. None of this was true, but she sent him edited photos of me with the other guy, removing everyone else from the pictures, making it look like we were on a date. The pictures Jenna sent were from Adrien's birthday party, but she had edited them to make it look like I was sitting close to the other guy, which appeared quite suspicious. Adrien wasn't part of that circle, so he hadn't seen the photos before, especially since he's not active on social media. In her text, Jenna told him not to confront me about it because it would drag her into the situation and potentially create problems with my dad, which could get her into trouble. She advised him to break off the engagement without mentioning anything, which was her mistake. She assumed Adrien would trust the doctored photos more than he trusted me. When Adrien received the texts, he came to me right away, asking what was going on. He wasn't suspicious, just curious. After reading the texts, I explained to him that Jenna was making up lies to sabotage our relationship just before the wedding. He didn't hesitate for a second before believing me. I immediately called my dad, furious and unable to tolerate Jenna's actions any longer. I told him about the text Jenna had sent to Adrien, trying to ruin our relationship just weeks before the wedding. I also told him about every other little thing Jenna had done in the past, sparing no detail. I spilled everything about our strained and competitive relationship, which I had hidden from him for the sake of family peace. But now it was clear that Jenna would never stop trying to mess with me. I wasn't a child anymore, and I wasn't going to let her get away with this or engage in petty mind games to prove my strength like I did in the past. I told my dad everything mentioned earlier in this post and gave him an ultimatum. Either he cut ties with Jenna, or I would cut ties with him. He asked me to give him some time to think and to at least talk to Jenna about this because he was so confused and lost, struggling to process everything I had just told him. I told him he had until the end of the day to get back to me and that the ball was in his court. I believed I was being more than fair in my reaction, not forcing my dad to do anything, but leaving the choice entirely up to him. I had ignored Jenna's behavior for a long time, but now that she was trying to meddle with my relationship, I couldn't ignore it any longer. After giving my dad the ultimatum, I didn't speak to him for the rest of the day, giving him the space he needed to come to a decision without any influence from me. The decision was entirely my dad's own choice. The reason I'm emphasizing this is because many people are blaming me for Jenna getting kicked out of the house and my dad telling her he wants a divorce. By everyone, I mostly mean her friends and a few of her relatives, but it's still a significant number of people who are texting me and accusing me of intentionally sabotaging their marriage. Some even claim that I've been trying to get rid of her since I was a kid, which is absurd. If I had been trying to do that, I would have succeeded long ago and not waited until now. My dad called me the same day to tell me he had ended things with Jenna. He sounded upset, so I decided to give him some space and didn't discuss it further that day. It's been a few days and we still haven't talked about it because I've been so busy with wedding preparations. Now, with only a few weeks to go, Jenna is constantly texting me, trying to convince me to tell my father to take her back. The other day, Jenna sent me an email from a new account because I had blocked her everywhere else. She was practically begging me to talk to my father and convince him to take her back. She claimed that she was just trying to mess with Adrien and me and didn't actually mean to cause any trouble. I highly doubt that, but even if I gave her the benefit of the doubt, it still doesn't explain why she urged Adrien to leave me without confronting me, denying me a chance to explain myself. She said that after my phone call, my father confronted her immediately, and he was so furious that she couldn't explain herself properly. He told her to leave, so she left in a hurry without getting a chance to clarify everything. To be fair, I don't think any explanation would have worked in her favor anyway, so it's probably best that she left without delving into the truth. I've been reading that email and the texts her friends and family have been sending me, and honestly, I've started to wonder if I am the *** hole here. I can't help but feel that giving my dad that ultimatum was unfair, and I probably shouldn't have done it. While I don't regret telling him the truth because he deserved to know, and I needed to get it off my chest, the ultimatum was a bit extreme. Jenna is currently living in a hotel, but she has limited funds since she quit her job a couple of years after marrying my dad and hasn't bothered to save up. She's pretty much counting on me to fix things between her and my dad. Update 1. Hi, thank you for all the lovely comments and overwhelming support. It means a lot to both Adrien and me. I realize now that I was overthinking everything and I didn't need to worry about being the bad guy. A lot of you asked why I didn't tell my father about how Jenna treated me as a kid. Some of you didn't buy the theory about me wanting to prove I was stronger. Well, to be honest, that was part of it. I did want to show her that I was strong and that she couldn't break me with her rude behavior. The other part was that my dad seemed really happy with her, and I didn't want to take that away from him. I was a pretty selfless kid, and I had never seen my dad so happy just being with someone. None of his other girlfriends had ever had this effect on him. Somehow, Jenna made him a happier, livelier, and more carefree person. That's why I didn't want to ruin it for him and kept everything under wraps. Recently, I spoke to my dad a day or two after posting here, and we had a real heart-to-heart about my childhood and how Jenna treated me. He apologized for not being around at the time because he was so busy with work, and I forgave him because he had given me a great life. Jenna had always been amazingly nice to me whenever my dad was around, so there was no way he could have picked up on the tension between us, and I never told him either. I don't blame him for not realizing we had problems. He said it was difficult to come to terms with what I told him, but after speaking to Jenna once he got off the phone with me, he realized he had to break things off with her and owed me a huge apology. When confronted about the text she sent to Adrien, Jenna initially tried to deny it, claiming it must have been a glitch, but the texts were obviously typed out by her. So my dad pressed her again, and she finally confessed that she had tried to sabotage the wedding on purpose, but claimed she had a valid reason. Her so-called real reason was that she believed my dad was funding the entire wedding, which he wasn't. My dad was only paying for the venue while Adrien and I were covering everything else. Jenna and my dad had planned a holiday in the coming months, and she was afraid he'd spend too much on the wedding, making it impossible for them to afford the trip. She also thought I'd keep asking my dad for money whenever I needed it in the future. She had the audacity to tell my father that she was just trying to save him from that burden. But my dad isn't an idiot. He realized that she was only trying to save their vacation. Out of anger, he kicked her out and told her not to come back, knowing now that everything I had told him was true. She's been trying to reach out to my dad ever since she was forced to leave, but he's muted her and hasn't responded. It's honestly crazy that she was willing to sabotage my wedding just for a holiday. It's even funnier that she believed I would excessively spend my dad's money when she's the one who depends on him financially. But it's fine. My dad's filed for divorce, and I hope it will be finalized soon. It's upsetting that all this is happening just a few weeks before my wedding. It's sad for my dad, but at least I'll finally be rid of her. Update 2. There's just 1 week to go until the wedding. A couple of days ago, my dad's divorce proceedings finally started. I thought he'd be a total emotional mess because they've been together for quite a while, but he's actually handling it pretty well. Maybe he's just suppressing everything and not letting us see him fall apart. Either way, I'm going to make sure he's okay. I'll put him in touch with a therapist and make sure he goes because my mother thinks it's not good for him to hide his emotions. She's worried that he'll eventually have a meltdown if he doesn't process his feelings properly. Jenna stopped trying to talk to me, which is a relief. If she had continued, I probably would have been harsh with her. My mother believes Jenna stopped fighting the divorce because of the alimony, and I think that's a likely theory. She's probably planning to take that holiday on her own now. Adrien and my mom have been a great support system for me and my dad during this time, and I'm really grateful for both of them. My mom has been sending my dad meals because she knows he struggles with cooking. It's not that he can't cook, he's just really bad at it, a trait I've inherited. To help with this, my dad and I have planned to have dinner together at least once a week. This way, we can keep in touch, he won't feel lonely, and I won't feel guilty, which I've been struggling with since I am technically the reason for their breakup. I know I'm not supposed to feel guilty because I did the right thing, but I still do, and I'm working on it with my therapist. Update 3. Adrien and I are married now. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and I'm so grateful for all the love and support you've shown us. We truly didn't expect such an outpouring of kindness. Our wedding was beautiful, and the reception was everything we could have hoped for. All our friends and family were there, making it truly wonderful. I could go on and on about it, but I think you'd be more interested in what's happening with Dad and Jenna. Jenna is now demanding that she keep the house and an outrageous payout, but my dad's lawyer is fiercely opposing her claims. It seems unlikely that she'll get any of it, especially not with my testimony against her. Now that she knows my dad isn't falling for her innocent act anymore, she's showing her true colors. My dad is going to therapy to work through all of this, and I'm confident that he'll get through it.